Hi there, I'm Violet Van Hees, and this is Grow Your Movement Freedom. Welcome. Today we're going to look at a really tricky subject. It's about how our socialization, how our response to the rules and the beliefs of our social group around us may be limiting and reducing and in fact getting in the way of your strength and your comfort in your own movement. So we are social creatures. We live in families, we live in communities, we rely on other people. When we're babies, we're totally dependent on the people around us to take care of us. We have a real need for relationships and for community, and we have to be able to fit in. Our survival requires that we have to be able to fit in socially with the group we're in, or else we're in big trouble. Not so much now that, in modern world we have some choices, but as little kids you don't have a lot of choice. And in the old days, a long time ago, if you didn't fit in socially, you were banished, and this was a bad thing. So there's a real strong drive inside us to fit in and to conform with the groups that we want to be part of, that we need to be part of. And part of conforming means conforming physically, doing something where you look like the other people around you, where you do the same things as the people around you, have similar habits, you have similar ways of holding yourself, similar ways of interacting. And some of those things are great and useful, and some of those things might be working against what your body would otherwise choose to do. If you were allowed to just feel what feels good for you and respond to what feels useful and strong and clear and like it's your actual choice in the situation. And today I'm going to look at two particular social rules that are really strong in our society and in our culture that are probably working against you if they're ones that you respond to. And one of them is sucking in your abs, and the other one is captured by the phrase, "Does this make my butt look fat?" So if you respond to either one of those, if you can feel yourself going, "Oh yeah, I react to that," this video is for you. And we're going to look at these two beliefs, or these two social conventions, in relation to an action that we need every day, which is being able to sit down and stand up. Or be able to get down low and pick something up off the ground, like pick up your kids or pick up a box or something like that. Or do a squat, just being able to do a squat in the gym, which for a lot of people feels difficult. And I would bet it's because these two things are working against you. So let's take a look at them. So the first one about sucking in your abs. I've already done a whole video. I talked about it often, and I did a whole separate video called Core Ability and Strength. I'll put the link to that one down below so you can go back to that one. But it's looking at sort of the strong belief in our society that if you suck in your abs, you're going to hold your back better and you'll be stronger and you'll function better. But it actually blocks your movement. It gets in the way of your movement, and it means that your whole body goes stiff, and instead of having a spine that's movable, which is how spines are meant to be. If you imagine this thing being a spine, all little dots being your vertebrae, if a spine is able to spread out the work and be movable all the way up and down its length, then each little place in your spine gets to do something, and no one place in your spine gets asked to do too much. And you can get the whole spine underneath the weight of the ribs and the head so that they can be carried around on bone, instead of carried around hanging off little muscles and ligaments. If you hold yourself in, all your little muscles and ligaments in your back have to hold that weight. Whereas if you can actually curve around and come underneath your spine, and underneath the ribs and the weight of your ribs and your head with your spine, then you can drive the work from the biggest bones and the biggest muscles in your body, which is down around your butt. Which takes us to the second point, which is the belief that we shouldn't stick out our butt because that makes our butt look fat. And we don't want that, right? Like, we're really ingrained to not do something that makes our butt look fat. There's a whole, jokes about this and everything. But behind the joke, there's a real concern, a real personal concern to not do it. So I would bet there's lots of people around that and maybe yourself, that you tend to tuck in your butt or squish your butt underneath you to try and make it look smaller. But here's the thing. In order for your body to work really well, you want to be able to send the work to the big guys. I've done other videos on that too. And the biggest bones and the biggest muscles in your body, your powerhouse, is down around the pelvis. So I'm going to move away a bit here and just work with a chair to show you a bit about how this works and how to work with it. Alrighty, so here we go. So for sitting down, for squatting, for sitting, for coming to stand, all those things, we need to be able to fold up our bones in some way and find a way to let the work come through the bones rather than having the little muscles screaming at us and saying this is too hard, and without compressing the bones or sending the work through the wrong places like your knees. So the way to do this is to let your knees kind of be in the middle of the movement and have some balance and counterbalance going on in your body. That means there needs to be some weight to the back, some weight to the front, and then your legs in the middle can be like the stand in the middle of a teeter-totter. You can have weight on the front end, weight on the back end, and the knees and the legs in the middle are simply the pivot point in the middle rather than the place that's taking all the work. So to do that, I'm going to actually send my sitting bones back and up in space. And I'm going to let the front of me get really long. So there's two things at once, two of those rules of society that might be broken here. One is I'm actually going to let my butt go out and back in space, and I'm going to let the front of me not be short, not be held in, but I'm going to let it get long so that I can find length and space all the way up through a long arc in my body. It's sort of like this thing again. If this is my spine, I'm creating this kind of shape in my spine so that I can hold my ribs and my head on top of a column of bone and let that bone, that column of bone, be moved through space as I stand up by the big bones and the big muscles in the powerhouse of my body. All right, and when I come down, same thing. It's supported here. So if the front of me is short, I can't get that arc. And I'm going to feel like, first of all, it's hard to get up. And second of all, I have to lift myself from my shoulders or lift myself from my little back muscles, which is hard work. It's much harder than feeling like these guys here get to drive the movement up, and I just simply unfold and fold up. Okay? And then the big question for a lot of people is, does this make my butt look fat? And so I actually ask that in classes when I teach this. I'm asking people to have a look at the other people around them and kind of go, hey, what size does their butt look? Does it look kind of normal? And they kind of go, yeah. I said, do they look strong? And they go, yeah. I said, and how big do you feel like your butt might be? And they're going like this big. And so I'm asking them to just check in if whether maybe their perception of their butt being back in space is different than what it actually looks like to anybody else and the actual reality there. We have this belief that sticking your butt out is a bad idea. It's not ladylike, it's not right, you should be tucking it under, it's maybe not strong. But your body's kind of going, this feels pretty good actually. Being able to get here and get under the weight of my chest and my head and being able to balance over my legs and then drive up to standing from there and sit down, similar lightness, comes down. This makes your butt light. Okay? So it's your body might tell you something different than what you've been taught to believe. So one of the key points is that the rules that you learn socially might not feel right or feel good in your body. Your body might think, this doesn't actually work for me, or maybe it works for everybody else, but it's not feeling right for me, or I don't actually feel stronger or better or feel like this is more useful when I do it like this, but I guess I should because everybody says it's right. Right? And so this is an invitation for you to actually go back and listen to if you had a more sort of wild kind of person inside, if you were more like a deer in the wild or a cat. You know how cats always look like they're finding what's comfortable and what feels good, and they don't have this whole thing of, oh, I can't stretch like that. That wouldn't be right. They just kind of do it because it feels good. If you can get back in touch with just even an inkling of what your body might be telling you it would like instead, or if it's saying, I don't actually think this is great. It's supposed to be great, but it doesn't feel great. And starting to listen to that a little bit. And then having little tiny explorations of, well, what might feel good? and do it in little bits so that you can experiment safely. Right? And you're starting to listen to your own cues inside your own experience to guide you on what might be good. I call this kind of getting in touch with your more wild or uninhibited sense of yourself and just listening to that little voice. So these 3 horses are living on wild range this summer. This is their playground for the summer. And generally, horses, if they're not injured or in pain, will just carry themselves in a way that's comfortable. And you'll notice that these horses don't suck in their abs, don't tuck in their butts, don't seem too worried about those things. This is what I mean by a sense of wildness and just doing what feels comfortable and reasonable in your own body. All right, that's a big topic. There are lots and lots and lots of these kinds of social conditioning things that go on, the socialization stuff that happens. And you might notice other things than what I've talked about today. Today was 2 examples. I'd be really interested if you're noticing things where your socialization is limiting you or is getting in your way. Let me know. I think it's really interesting to notice those things and to start to ask questions about that. My contact information is right below here. If you'd like to get in touch, please do. If you'd like more information, go check my website down there. Let me know what you're finding out about this and have some real interesting and happy exploring with this. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.